Hello everyone. Today we are here with Heiko Seitz, partner and global eMobility leader at PwC. Heiko, how are you?
Very good. Nice to meet you.
So, how's been the day?
It's exciting. I mean, we're here at Mobility Life in Dubai. The whole ecosystem is coming together to understand how mobility is developing and affecting everybody, be it on private, but also fleet and commercial sector.
So, coming to my first question, as a global eMobility leader at PwC, could you start by telling a bit about your role within the company and how does it intersect with the transformation of the global transport and logistic sectors?
Sure. So, in my role as global electric mobility leader with PricewaterhouseCoopers, I have governments across the world to really understand how all these beautiful decarbonization policies and agendas that have been developed over the last years and decades can be now translated into real actionable roadmaps for mobility to help us move efficiently, but also cleaner and greener.
How are the logistic providers in the Middle East and around the world responding to increasing demands to reduce their carbon footprint? And what are the most effective strategies or tools driving this transition?
Yeah, so while I work with the governments, I also work with all the different ecosystem stakeholders, be the logistics firms, with the fleets, but also utilities, with energy, you name it, and the car makers, obviously, very importantly, when it comes to ground transport. So we really see that when it comes to fleet operators, etc., there is a big change because the total cost of ownership of electric mobility is increasingly improving. We see that for particularly passenger cars and light-duty commercial vehicles. In Europe, for example, it's already 15% cheaper to operate these compared to combustion engine cars. And now here in the Middle East, where generally there is not so much availability of car models yet, and generally also these new electric vehicles tend to be more expensive than in Europe, we have now reached parity. And for fleet operators of such smaller vehicles, it is now 7% cheaper in the average to own and operate electric vehicles to combustion engine cars. So lots of change here. Electrification has started to hit effectively also the Middle East.
So, urban mobility is rapidly evolving. How do you see logistics adapting to smart city models like the UAE's 20-minute city vision? And what role does last mile delivery innovation play in this?
Yeah, that's a complicated question because we see that in the world of 20-minute cities, we also work more to a hyper-localization of delivery. So here in Dubai, people expect that the delivery comes also within 15 or 20 minutes sometimes, which means much more activity on the last mile, much more need for micro warehousing in these last miles. And then obviously the opportunity to think about, will I want to decarbonize the last mile? And what's really important for me here to say, when we look at sustainable cities, it's not just all about efficiency. It has to be as well, because it has to be price sensitive, but it's also about sustainable living. So we have to think about electrifying the last mile now, because this is the sector where we will see more decarbonization as we scale. We need to definitely decarbonize last mile very effectively, quickly.
So, electrifying heavy transport, such as trucks and freight vehicles, remains a challenge.
Yeah.
So, what strategies or technologies are showing the most promising in overcoming the barriers of like cost, range, and infrastructure?
Yeah, you're hitting the nail on the head. While it's quite easy to decarbonize, electrify last mile, as we just discussed, it's much more complicated to electrify and decarbonize long haul and heavy trucking, because while the technology is increasingly there are lots of organizations, OEMs from China, India, and the rest of the world building very attractive models. The total cost of ownership is still very high, and it's generally more expensive to own and run an electric trucking fleet than a combustion engine fleet. So there is, from a business sense, limited trajectory and momentum right now in this piece of the market. I don't think that the big game changer will be the technological change. It's more on the policy side. We will see that those regions in the world will electrify more significantly, where governments will kickstart the electric engine with subsidizing fleet operators. And then once we have reached certain scale, and it's also then sufficiently attractive for infrastructure operators to invest in charging infrastructure, subsidies can be pulled out, and then the whole ecosystem is going to be natural. So I don't see the challenge on the technology side so much. I think we're on the right track. It's going to be a policy question that is very important for those governments that want to decarbonize to also be hands-on on that particular part of the value chain.
So digital transformation is reshaping the logistics.
Yeah.
How can companies best leverage digital twins, AI, IoT to improve operational efficiency and environmental sustainability?
So the beautiful thing about digital twinning, to take that particular technology, is that you can model transformation before it actually happens. And transforming fleets, just like any other capex heavy transformation, is something that needs to be well planned. So being able to completely replicate your fleet in a digital sense, and then modeling the carbon emissions and also your cost structure, optimizing routes, positioning charging infrastructure at the right places, playing with battery capacities and technology. That is a key enabler to build a not only efficient but also profitable electric network for a fleet operator. So all about digital twins.
So collaboration appears key in the e-mobility ecosystem. How important are partnerships between private sectors, players, governments, and technology providers in driving large-scale logistic transformation?
Collaboration is key because this is such a huge transformation. Nobody can master it alone. And what we have really seen change over the last years, if not decades, is the pace of change. So we're in a very fast moving environment. So whoever wants a seat at the table needs to act fast, and you can obviously accelerate pace by partnering up to close skill gaps quickly, to hedge risks, and to obviously drive your growth. So it's all about collaboration, particularly in an area which is new to everyone. It's all about partnering up.
So looking ahead, what do you envision the logistic industry will look like by 2030 in terms of sustainability, electrification, and digital integration?
Yeah. Well, increasingly electric, certainly fully connected, and then increasingly autonomous. And I think this is the next big transformation. I think electrification is coming now anyways, once we sort the charging challenge, which is a big challenge, but it's all about autonomy. When we think about artificial intelligence in trucking, taking out the driver is a extremely great opportunity to get down cost. And you need to save costs in order to electrify, given the challenging cost structure of e-trucks these days. So autonomy is going to drive not only cost and efficiency, but it's also going to maximize further uptime of fleets, and it's going to increase safety, which is key.
Right. I think that is all for today. Thank you so much for this.
Thank you so much for
Thank you.
having me. Thank you.
Thank you.